So I've got to talk about thirst, misinformation, and desperation on this segment of the Gig Geezer. It is late Saturday afternoon, June 21st, 2025. If this is your first time checking out the Gig Geezer, hey, thanks for coming by. If you're a returning visitor of the Gig Geezer, thanks also for coming by. Hit that subscribe button, give my content a thumbs up, share my content among others, and I definitely welcome your comments in the section below. Well, as you see here, I'm actually in the midst of a delivery opportunity this afternoon. And quite honestly, I'm just out here doing something to recoup some of the money that I put out earlier today, which were for oil changes and some casters that went on my all-in-one dolly. The casters were necessary. Well, actually, the casters were a very cost-effective solution to getting a new dolly, in that the casters cost $20 total, including tax, whereas I would have ended up having to spend $100, tax included, for a new dolly if I didn't know that I could do that. The two delivery opportunities, one was some underpriced garden furniture, and the other is some bookshelves. They are stacked opportunities, so I stacked them together. I'm looking at them as one opportunity, and for whatever it's worth, it will recoup about half of the money that I spent today. My main thought, which is the teaser about desperation, misinformation, and thirst. The source of it comes from a Facebook group in which it's among sprinter van and cargo van drivers, many of whom do over the road, but their vehicle is what they do is primarily delivery and transport, and their van is the vehicle by which they earn their money. Well, this one particular driver put a post out there that definitely caught my attention. He says he's in the Atlanta market and he's struggling. He just bought a van, and he may the van that he bought may have been one that was used by Federal Express or Amazon. He said he does not have a US DOT number, nor does he have an MC number. And he says that nobody will hire him, and that he could not afford beyond nothing more than the $100,000 cargo insurance. So that means he may just, based on just that statement alone, this is me guessing because he never really specified the extent of his insurance, but let's presume that he just has $100,000 cargo insurance. It sounds like to me that he cannot afford, or he has not gotten then the combined single liability insurance and along the way the $1 million/$2 million commercial general liability, and that he's just operating with just regular personal auto insurance. So he's doing some things that I can't even say that he's flirting with the gray area. He's just out there right now. There are a number of folk who responded. Some were supportive. Those who were supportive, actually, one person gave an entire list of gig apps that he perhaps should pursue trying to be onboarded. Now, personally, I would not have done that. You say that I'd be gatekeeping, or I'm being a selfish old motherfucker. Maybe I am, but I would venture to say that that ultimately, while you may come across those apps on your own, one of the things that I noticed with that particular Facebook group, there's a lot of people in that group looking for the same information. They are looking, in my opinion, for the answers to the test. They're looking, in my opinion, for someone to basically give them inroad to an opportunity that could get them going. I've also seen from that group many people similar to this person whose wheels are merely spinning, and I get that that may be frustration. And again, if I'm guilty of playing gatekeeper, in that I remember when I was in school, I had instructors who would often pretty much say, hey, look, I got mine, you get yours. It's kind of fucked up for people to say that. But one thing about it, when you get yours, can nobody take it from you. That is the thing, that is the lesson behind it. When you get it for yourself, can nay motherfucker tell you a goddamn thing. That's when you could tell them to fuck off, kiss your ass, find the shortest cliff to drive off of. There's something about there's something about that satisfaction when you have accomplished something on your own merit, your personal temerity. But what I noticed with the guy in that post, he had a logo of his business name, obviously the van. But again, my initial thought was that there's a lot of folk in his same situation. People that have gone out and bought a van. Now they got a van, they're looking around, they're not able to make the money that they're seeing other people boast of making or project of making. You have to question the source. And, I invite you to question what I do, but I've got documentation. I've got the documentation. I've shown the documentation over the body of work that I've done here on the Gig Geezer channel, be it when I was operating out of the F-150 and Taurus, or the combination of the Sprinter/cargo van and F-150, and now the combination of the Geezer 16, the Geezer van, and the F-150. I've got a body of work that backs what I've talked. To that extent, what then do you do when you're in his situation? I will say this much, and this is the reason why I've not offered my quarter's worth on this, and I'm just pointing out how there are a lot of people who are in this situation. If I were to start all over again, if I were to wind the clock back to December 2022, I would not have gone this route at all. And one of the things that I will say publicly is that I would not have documented my my experience here on YouTube. I just would not have done that. I just would not. I'd gone about in relative silence, under the radar, and do what I do. Because I find that I just find that that was probably the wrong strategy. I admit that when I started the YouTube, when I went this far into when I continued documenting stuff here on YouTube after getting this Sprinter's van, my goal was the channel would be monetized in such a way that it would subsidize my commercial insurance and van note. And I've said this multiple times. This channel has generated enough money in a single month, only one time, to cover my van note. The rest of these months, I've had to go out there and make it happen. So not every channel, channels can be monetized, but not every channel makes the type of money that you think people make. Well, I'm literally about 5 minutes from the drop-off location. It also looks like it's a sparse, sporadic rainfall right here in the Columbia, South Carolina metropolitan area. But I will resume the conversation upon doing a stop, hop, and drop with this particular last mile gig delivery opportunity. All right, so I wasn't able to take a picture of the shelves, but they're the shelves probably weighed about 50, 60 pounds each, the boxes. And I spoke to someone as I was coming in, and then he called for someone to come out and meet me with to take the boxes inside. So I all I had to do was just hand them over. As you saw on the inset, as you see here on the inset coming in, this is an area that I'm very much familiar with, and that I used to call it my racetrack. I used to call it one of many racetracks when I used to do the Federal Express personal vehicle program. And the reason being, it was something about certain subdivisions in which I was able to do things at a faster pace than other subdivisions. And what typically happened was that there were a number of stops that were within the subdivision, that were within a certain area. Like, I'll just explain it like this. With Federal Express, you had parcel groupings based on number series, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, on up to most cases 8. And so when those parcel groupings in that number series, like 4, they would be like over in this part of the metropolitan area. For whatever reason, things just went faster. So that's why I called it a racetrack. But back to the conversation about thirst, desperation, misinformation. The misinformation, again, is based on people seeing things being glorified and glossed over by content creators and by people who post shit on these Facebook groups. The misinformation says, well, all you need is $300 to start a cargo van business. You don't need to do all that stuff. Just do this, and this. See how I earned this, and this. And most times these motherfuckers are hyped. They're hyped, man. They full of shit. Okay. Or they're passing around what I believe is misinformation, saying, yeah, I'm making this bag. I'm making this bag, and they're earning money. They're doing twice as much work needed to make the same money. Twice, maybe 3 times, up to 5 times as much work needed to make the same money. But if you say that you're making that bag, doing what you're doing, hey, knock yourself out, buddy. Knock yourself out. Sock it to me, baby. That's what they used to say back when I was a kid. Sock it to me. So that's where the misinformation comes in. And then what ends up happening is that you face this reality. You're not making money. You got all this money going out, and very little money's coming in. Now you've got to reassess what you're doing, and you're also questioning yourself whether you made the right decision or not. Now, have I had moments in which I question what I've done? Yeah, I've had a couple moments, but by and large, I want to say that I felt as if I made the right decision. The numbers and results justified my making the decision. Now, I said that I would probably do things again. I also believe that I got into things at the right time. Hence, for me, it was listening to that still small voice at the right time. That's another thing. People are quick to rush into things, and sometimes you have to wait. You have to literally, as you borrowing an athletic analogy, sometimes you have to allow for the game to come to you, because the speed of the game is going to fuck you up. The speed of the game is going to fuck your head up, and so you have to work your way. You have to get in at the right time so that you can actually process the relative speed of the game at that moment. Now, the thirst and desperation kind of speaks for itself. When you've gotten bad information and you see what you're doing, you're not getting the results. Well, then the thirst and desperation kicks in, and then you start doing stuff that is absolutely outright stupid. And you're willing to accept things for rates that don't make any sense. So, I've talked about thirsties. I've talked about how these apps many of these apps, they exploit one's ignorance and desperation and thirst. They all do it, as well as the brokers. They all do it. That's what they're looking for. But the only way that things can turn around is if drivers altogether, drivers collectively begin to put the brakes on what's going on, and then they have to respond to the demand. They have to respond to the market by actually changing how things are done. But that's not going to happen because human nature, there's always, like P.T. Barnum says, there's always a sucker born every day. There's a sucker born every 15 minutes. There's a sucker that's entering into that calls themselves, proclaim themselves entering into this space every 15 minutes. And for that reason, it's very hard. It's the cat's out the bag. The train left the station, so it's very difficult. So it's incumbent upon people who have a certain insight. It's incumbent upon people who have shown a proficiency in things to at least set people in the right direction, or at least make every effort to set people in the right direction. And so that's what I try to do. And because of that, here on YouTube, I mentioned about my channel and its monetization and even subscriber count. Well, my channel isn't pushed by algorithm because I'm not putting out there what people want to see. If you talk about what people want to see, you can be everybody's best friend, man. You can be the most popular person out there. So, in this guy's case, though, the gig apps would probably be his best option starting out. And then once he gets an understanding of what he really wants to do, and once he figure out what he wants to do, then he can kind of branch out or migrate to whatever else he's going to do. Now, the other example from the Facebook group that I wanted to touch on was a guy who was, based on how he set things up, how he put it out there, he was very excited about getting a van. And he talked about how he wanted to earn meaningful revenue, but also establish relationships with whomever he needs to establish, go out there looking for contracts, and so on and so forth. And there are those who suggested that maybe he needed to do something else. Don't get into this space. But then others suggested, hey, use your van for other things. And this is something that I've talked about as well. Your van is the vehicle by which you conduct your business. This is not the cargo van business. It is what you do with your van is your business. I've said this time and time again. And so some people suggest, hey, find courier services, try to establish direct relationships with people, but don't get so, the contracts, I don't know. I don't know. I know of a couple of I've seen a few content creators who say that they have multiple contracts or multiple relationships with people, and this enables them to make so much money a week. There's another person whom I've talked about a lot this year, Mr. Sam Randall. He has one primary contract, but that contract is a very good contract, and he makes very good money. Not everybody's going to find those. They exist, but they're like needles in the haystack. They're like hitting that target, that shot in the dark is hitting that target in the dead of night. But until you get to there, what do you do? And so this is why I say what I say and what others suggest as well. And then there is also the chorus of people wanting that same insight. They want to know, well, what can I do? How can I do this? Tell me. No, motherfucker, I ain't telling you a goddamn thing. I'm not telling you a goddamn thing. Really, I'm not. You may need to find somebody else. If you're looking for those type of answers, I'm not telling you a goddamn thing. I will not. I refuse to tell you. Because really and truly, what's going to happen? You're going to cut my legs from up under me. So why am I going to allow you to cut my legs from up under me? Simple as that. That's why, I'll give you another example. 1995, I bowled in a regional. I'd worked my way into bowling a regional, had been away from bowling for a while. And there's the A and B qualifying blocks. The A block, I'm plus, I'm in the number. Looks like, coming into the second block, I'm going to probably make it to the cashier's round match play. Second block, man, I hit a buzzsaw. I didn't have an answer for the lane transition. And one of the guys who was in my block, his son is probably a future Hall of Famer. His son is a future Hall of Famer now at PBA. He has an outside case to be a PBA Hall of Famer, but it's there are other people who would probably merit consideration before him. My point is that I asked him a question after the block about what was it, what type of what type of drill pattern did you have in your ball, blah 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 blah, and he kind of was very evasive about what he told me, and I get it. You know, why is he going to tell me his trick? I mention his name all the time, Cleo Hicks. For as much as Cleo Hicks shared with me about bowling, he still didn't share everything. There are a lot of things that I had to learn for myself. He showed me the concepts. It was up for me to make application of them. And proof of me making application of them, the last time I saw Cleo Hicks, and I've shared this story before. This is summer of 1991. I'm back out there for my high school classmate's wedding. And we meet up at a bowling alley, and he's actually giving some pointers to a guy named Chuck Thomas, whom I used to keep score for less than 10 years prior. I point out some things to Chuck Thomas about his backswing, and really more so about backswing and relaxing his hand at the apex of his swing. And Cleo comes in and basically tells him the same thing. Same thing. It's just that I come from a different angle, but the basis of what I learned was from Cleo Hicks. That's what I'm getting at. That's what I'm getting at with a lot of what I'm sharing in my mini segments of the Gig Geezer. I'm giving you concepts. It's up to you to make application of them. So this may not be one you like. Maybe it is one that you like. And so if you like the content, give it a thumbs up. If you don't, hey, give it a thumbs down. But for those of you who like it, hey, and those who may be more curious about additional content that I have here on this channel, hit that subscribe button. And share my content among others. And also welcome your comments in the section below. I'm Inwood Lane. As always, may your grind, may your business continue.